Hey guys, my name is Itimi and you're welcome to another episode of Founders Connect. Here I have conversations with amazing entrepreneurs and operators and even VCs in the African tech ecosystem. The goal is really to learn about the people behind the companies, not just about the companies, but who are these people, what's their journey, where are they from, what are their challenges, their lessons. And for this video, we're having a conversation with the very famous, very much loved Moe. She's the founder of Vazi Legal, and I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. Just knowing the Moe behind the Twitter account that we all know, right? And just really finding what really drives her and how she's building an amazing company, like just focusing on the legal aspect of things in the ecosystem where everybody's building fintech and every other thing. So make sure you stay and watch this video to the end. I'm pretty sure you will stay by yourself, but also do it because I'm begging you. And you should like and subscribe and comment and do all of that stuff to make me happy, all right? So I'll see you guys at the end of the video. Let's get into it.
Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Itimi, a change maker, professional, and creative who is passionate about growing people and growing businesses. Like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and please always share my videos. It promises to always be impactful and insightful.
Hi, Moe.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine. I'm finally in this seat, you know.
Finally. See, when we decided, I was like, Moe is doing this, and everybody was jumping like, yes. After this, we can retire.
Oh, right.
Like, we're not doing it again, right? But yeah, I'm really excited to. I mean, I'm a big fan, you know, but I'm really excited.
Likewise, you know that.
Jesus, but I really want to hear your story for the first time. I don't think I know as much as I would like to, and I think everybody as well would be looking forward to this here. So let's start from the background. Just tell me about your childhood, your family, anything you want to share, everything you want to share, just growing up, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. I had a very interesting childhood because there's something not many people know, but I have 10 siblings.
10.
And I'm number 10 of 10. I learned how to ride a bike as an adult because I was so young when my siblings were growing up because they just didn't play with me, right? So it was just like, oh, who's this tiny girl in the house? She's our sister, no problem. But they loved me and I loved them. My siblings and I are still very close. We talk every day. We have a WhatsApp group and all of that. But growing up, it was kind of like isolating in a way just because of the age difference, right? So
what's the difference between you and your immediate senior person?
The immediate person is 4 years between us, but after him, then there's 8 years between my sister and I. And the person who's immediate to me is the guy. He doesn't really, he's just like, yeah, my younger sister, okay. But my sisters, you know, and it got to a point where I think it was when I finally turned maybe about 15. That's when my sister started saying, that's true. We have a teenager in this house. Okay, no problem. Let's see. Where are your clothes? Let's share. You know, and that's when I started becoming close to my sisters. But what that meant was that growing up, I kind of like had to figure stuff out by myself. So it was like, I'll come back from school and there'll be things around the house where I was like, okay, just figure out how to make yourself comfortable. And I think that's kind of like really informed how I have developed as an adult. Some parts of it is not so good, but I think for most of it, it's been great. I'm very independent. And when I want to do stuff, I can, you know, basically just retreat, introspect, and say, okay, is this what I want to do before I do it? So that's kind of like how it works. I also grew up in a polygamous home, which is also something that not a lot of people know. So I grew up with 3 mothers. What that meant was also, I didn't even know who my real mom was until much later. And it wasn't in a bad way. It was just because the house was just so together that it was like, oh, okay, their mothers in the house and their children in the house. You know, that's kind of like how it was.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I have a very different experience of polygamy. Mine was super happy. I wouldn't have had it any other way, right? Like, in fact, I used to look at people, I'm like, oh my God, you have only 1 mother. Wow, I have 3. Wow. But I did enjoy growing up. The only thing that was, I guess, maybe just different, just like I mentioned, was I kind of like grew up and mostly trained myself, I think. Yeah.
Do you have a fondest memory as a child?
My fondest memory is going swimming. So my mom used to own a barbing salon called Cinderella Goldfingers. Oh my God. I think about that name and I'm like, why? And then it was somewhere in GRA, Keja. And it was in this country club where she later changed the name. Something was look nice. I'm like, we should have left Cinderella Goldfingers. This look nice. What are you saying? So I tell people I'm going to the salon. Where is it? I'm like, look nice. And they're like, what? Anyways. So, basically, we would go after school. We'll go to the country club, and then take swimming lessons. I started swimming lessons when I was about 4 or 5, so pretty early.
Just to swim?
Yes, competitively actually. That's another thing that people don't know. So I swam competitively until secondary school, like representing Lagos State government and all of that. So my fondest memory, honestly, was really just around after school, going to the salon to say hello to my mom, and then just going for swimming lessons. Because once I enter the water, that's it. And it's still the same thing up till now. People who follow my travel pictures, if there's an ocean, I'm going to jump into it because it's kind of like my happy place, just going. And I scuba dive as well, and it's for the same reason. So I swim underwater and I just go and I just forget the world even exists. That's
a beautiful place to be. Underwater is brilliant.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, that's my fondest memory.
Amazing. Where did you grow up in Lagos?
I did. I grew up in Lagos. Yeah.
All true.
Yeah. I left Lagos for the first time when I was going to law school. So I went to law school in Abuja, and that was the first time I lived out of Lagos. But after law school, I moved to Osun State because that's where I had my NYSC. And then since then, I've lived in
so many places.
So many other places.
We'll come there. So tell me about school and getting to the point where you decided that you want to study law.
I think it was all that, this child talks a lot, just be a lawyer. I don't think that story is different for a lot of people. But I think part of it, so I was very close to my dad, he's late now. And my dad wanted to, he was a very cerebral person. He was always reading. He didn't study law, but he was a fan of, just reading law books. I remember he used to have like stacks and stacks of like law of contracts, very big books from his uni days from the UK. And we would just sit down and just talk shop, right? Like he was an insurance guy, and we would just talk about all these things. And I'm like, when I think about it, I was 12 having conversations with my father about like insurance law. There was no reason why I should. So it was kind of like, so one day he was just talking to me about it, and he was like, hey, I think you should study law. And I was like, well, true, people have been saying it, that I should probably be a lawyer. At the time, I was in science class, but I was like, okay, I'll just switch to the arts because I actually even preferred those subjects, and that was it. And also, when you are in like the social sciences or arts, at least at the time when I went to school, it's usually like, oh, you should do law or something.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anything else on the table. But at the end of the day, I'm really grateful that I studied law.
Why?
It gave me my best friends, which is like, which is what you probably not expect to hear.
Yeah.
But in Nigeria, as a lot of people know, you spend a lot of time in school. And I went to one school that has a lot of strike. And law school in uni is 5 years, and then you now go to law school, which is another 1 year, which is 6 years. Amidst everything that happened, I was just grateful that I got to spend 6 years with some of the people that I consider that I love the most in life, right? That's one thing that school actually really gave to me. And, those are women I still talk to every day today. But yeah, if not because of studying law in this place where we're just confused, our paths would never have crossed. So I think that's one of the things. And I think the second thing is, I was talking to somebody today who's also studying law, but in her third year or fourth year. And I said one of the things that law gives you is that it gives you such a broad landscape for you to build anything on top of that. I walk into any room and I see anything and I'm like, I can do it, right? Because you read so many books that one of the things that my friend, my best friend who's also a lawyer says is that if it's in English, I'll read it and I'll know it. So she has moved her career from just being a lawyer to being like a software engineer. And she always says that if the instructions are in English, I can learn it. And I think that's sort of the attitude that law gives you, because there's so many complex material that you have to distill in such a short period of time for you to pass any sort of examination. And that sort of training, I think it's very, very important for other areas of life as well.
That makes sense. So aside the friends that you met and just learning how to read and understand many things, is there anything from law school or the 5 years of studying law in uni that still like sticks with you till today?
I didn't spend a lot of time in uni. That's the problem, because I was. For me, I got very interested in the outside world very quickly. So I would come to uni just enough to, to pass and have exams and things like that. So from my school, I don't think so, which is probably not a good thing, but
but it's totally okay.
But I think, so I not really,
Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next question.
Okay.
So tell me about finishing law school and then starting your law career. What was that early stages of, building your career as a lawyer like?
Okay. So when I left school, I thought I was just going to go into business, and it was so funny because people were like, oh, so what are you going to do with your life after school? I'm like, oh, I'll just go into business, but I had no idea what
Business, like start your own business.
I had no idea. I just knew it was business. But so what usually happened was that in uni, while I was in uni, I used to do a lot of stuff. I used to sell stuff from the boot of from the trunk of my car. I would write business proposals for people, and they would pay me a fee for it. So I was kind of like, always just doing stuff, that kind of thing. And I just thought that when I left school, I would just continue. In fact, I started a company. I think it was called the Social Media Place. At the time I was done with school, the social media was just coming up at the time, and I was like, oh, I can help businesses get on social media. So I spoke to a friend of mine, and we started doing something around that. But also at the same time, I started applying to law firms, and that's another. I think that's a part of my story that I wanna really just talk about a little bit. When I started applying to law firms in Nigeria, and it makes me super emotional. I applied to 35 law firms. And I did not get anyone, like not even one. I got one interview, and then I remember I went to Ikoyi, and then the guy said to me, and this is me, I finished the 2-1, so it's not safe, it's just like there were just no jobs. So I went to Ikoyi, and this guy interviewed my friend and I, and we had spent 45 minutes with one test where this guy brought like SAT questions for us and all of that. And I mean, when we finished, the guy was like, oh, you guys really passed this test, so I'm going to offer you 40,000 naira. My friend looked at me. I looked at her. I was like, this is not going to happen. And the funny thing is, I remember that at this time, it was during full scarcity. So that day, and my friend is she's one of those people where she's just like, oh, I keep calling, let me just call her name Linda. So she's one of those people where she's like, let's get things done, let's get it done. So we had like a whole list of all the firms we wanted to go to. It was full scarcity. I remember that we were on Third Mainland, which was probably very risky. We took a bike, it was raining. We're going from law firms to drop fiscal applications. At that time, that was the thing. All of you that are doing email, dear sir, I want to apply. They don't know anything. So we went, and that's it. And I think that it's probably a memory I try to suppress because it's a very painful memory. But also I think that is also something that is important for me to share, because when people see my career now, they're like, oh, it's always been easy, but it wasn't. Imagine getting 30-something rejections in a space of 1 week or less than that. I just couldn't.
That's a lot.
Yeah, in fact, I'm on a WhatsApp group with some guy who's a partner at a law firm in Lagos, and I was just even joking with him. He was like, oh, let's come to my office, let's have a meeting. And I was like, your office, I remember, I came for an interview, you guys didn't give me the job. Everybody at the group was laughing. And he was like, it's a lie, that honestly, and now we'll be begging you to work for us. I was like, you see, what God cannot do does not exist. So basically, but again, like I said, it was not a straight line. So once that happened, we were like, okay, this is not going to work out. 40,000 naira is probably what I will make with one proposal. I'll, sell, make for somebody. But I really wanted to build a career, right? So I was still at that point trying to figure out. Then I met this guy. He was like, he said, oh, that he's now a senior advocate of Nigeria. So I'm not going to call his name because I don't want any trouble. But the guy said, oh, let's have an interview in Ikoyi. And I said, okay, fine, no problem. He said he was going to be at the Ikoyi Golf Club. So I wore, dressed up for the interview. I wore heels and everything. So I go to him and I'm like, okay, let's have this interview. And he's like, oh, that he's playing golf, so I should come to the golf course. Then he gave me his golf clubs to carry with my heels. I walked like 17 holes because this guy, and it was during the interview, and he was just like, this guy turned me to his caddy, that's what he called it. He was like, so I carried the whole thing, and then he actually offered me the job, and he offered me 50,000 naira, so at least 10K more. 10K more. Good. And the other guy, and then this office was in Ikeja. I took the job, and then the day I quit was one day at 4 a.m. This guy calls me. He's like, he wants me to go to court that morning, and it was a matter that his friend was supposed to appear, but his friend cannot travel from Port Harcourt, and then the matter is going to come up first thing in the morning at the high courts in Lagos. I was like, okay, this was at 4 a.m. or something. He calls me. I said, okay, fine, no problem. So I wore my dress, my white and black with my wig and gown. I can't believe this. And then I started going outside. I turned on the car. My mother said, "Where are you going?" I said, my boss said I should come and collect a file from him from Ikoyi. She said, "Do you know what time it is?" I said, 4:30. She said, "How much are they paying you?" I said, 50,000. She said, "Sit down, I'll give you the money." She was like, "What? That's not going to happen." And then, you know, and that was the day I sat down and I thought about it. And I was like, I don't think this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I wasn't enjoying the work, and it just didn't seem like a good environment for me. So I remember quitting my job that week, maybe that same day. I just went back to the office. You know, I just told him that this is over, I'm not doing anymore. And at that point in time, I met someone who was telling me, he said, I have an idea for a product. This guy has just come back from one of those schools in America, I think it was MIT or something. He was really gingered. He was like, so I just met him. I can't remember how I met him, but he was telling me that, you're a lawyer, right? I have a tech idea. I said, what does that mean? Because
what does that mean?
Exactly. Think about this. This is like 2011, something like that. It was a long time ago, right? Almost about a decade ago. So the ecosystem, the tech ecosystem as we see it in Nigeria right now, what most people don't realize is that it's really blossomed in the last 5 or 6 years, right? Like, so, you know, this guy says he wants to start a tech company. It sounded very weird to me. I mean, I knew the likes of InterSwitch and Charms and all of that, but you know, a young guy just by yourself, who are you? Why do you want to start a tech company? So he said, that the idea is that, have I heard of QR codes? I was like, QR codes? He was like, yes. That his own idea is that you take a QR code, you go to a supermarket, and then you can scan, you know, with the QR code, and you can pay. Now, this actually seems very simple because this is technology that we see every day. But somebody telling me this 10 years ago, you know, I just didn't understand what was going on. But I was like, this sounds like a very interesting thing. So what do you need a lawyer for? And it was like, well, I don't know, but I know that tech companies need lawyers. First of all, I want to check if I can protect my intellectual property because this is my invention. I was like, I don't know the answer to that question because I was still fresh out of law school, right? Less than 1 year, but I was like, I'll find out. So again, I called my friend, Linda, and I said, okay, let's try. And Linda found it interesting, and then we started working on that particular product. We didn't get the protection because at the time, Nigeria was Nigerian. Nigeria does not allow you to protect copyrights, to protect software or something. There was something with the laws at the time that didn't allow us to protect it. But it was a very interesting journey because that was my first introduction to tech. And I was like, I like what this guy is building. And I mean, not what he was building. I just liked the idea that somebody could just think about the fact that, oh, I can just build anything, right? Like the audacity to dream and the audacity to say, oh, you know, I'm going to build a solution that everybody in Nigeria is going to use one day. You know, for me, I found out very, very, you know, exciting, and that was it. And I never looked back.
Hey fam, permit me a little intermission break to tell you about this cool company that I found. This is particularly for business owners and decision makers in Africa. Have you ever heard about Seabit? No? Oh my gosh. Come a little closer, let me tell you about it. Seabit is a payment solutions provider powering payment collection for local and global businesses in Africa. They have infrastructure rails across 12 African countries and counting. I know you'll probably say that, I've heard that before, there's so many payments companies in Africa, so let me focus on the things that actually make Seabit stand out. They have a wide range of payment products, from checkouts to invoicing to payment gateways and remittance gateways that can be white labeled, to virtual accounts, to payment links, and so much more. In fact, they have the most reliable virtual account system in the market. They recently partnered with 9PSB to build their infrastructure rules from scratch, which means that no more frequent downtimes and yes, to better speed and more rigorous technical support. But what does this actually mean for business in Africa? It means that fintechs can actually integrate Seabit's infrastructure and provide virtual accounts for their users for P2P payment, savings, loan collections, and repayments. But it's not just for fintechs. Sport betting companies as well can integrate Seabit to allow their users to fund their betting wallets. Small businesses can use their payment links to actually collect payments from their websites. And FMCGs can actually integrate Seabit infrastructure to actually assign virtual accounts to their clients and merchants for invoicing and payment collection. It's really cool and a solid company. So if you need any form of payment infrastructure for your business in Africa, then definitely contact Seabit. The website seabit.com. I'm going to put a link to the website and how you can email them on this video description. Make sure you check them out if you're a business owner or you make decisions about a business in Africa. Let's go back to the video.
But then I know that you went to Columbia Law School.
I did.
So how did you go from, oh, I'm helping this person with this law, with this tech idea, to I'm going to go do like a master's in Columbia?
Yeah. So I knew that in order for me to, so I started after this first meeting, right? I started working for this person just on the side, but I was still doing a bit of other things just to make ends meet because tech entrepreneurs there did not have money. Nobody was raising money. So there was no money or anything like that. So I was doing a bit of other stuff on the side. I was, working here and there. And I knew, but I started getting very, very interested in the tech space. And I knew that in order for me to be able to build the sort of career I wanted to build, I needed to get some sort of, credibility stamp of some sort. I mean, not that I really cared about it, but I knew that accessibility was important, right? Because this is me, an outsider, saying that I want to become one of the best tech lawyers in the world, not even in Nigeria. How do I want access? So I literally just sat down and I Googled best law schools in the world, right? And then I applied to the top 5, and that was it. And then when I applied to the top 5, I got into 4 of them. And when it was time for me to pick, I wanted to pick between, so I'd got into, so I had a couple of places to pick. And then I saw Columbia's program and I saw it was in New York. And I was like, okay, New York gives me an opportunity for me to, just be there. New York, I mean, it's it's just the capital. I got into Berkeley as well, which is in California and which is right there in Silicon Valley. But I just felt that, okay, maybe it was not time for me to go to Berkeley yet. So I wanted to go to New York, experience New York, and then maybe after Columbia, then go to Silicon Valley. But as it happened, after Columbia offered me a job. So I worked with Columbia under a fellowship for 1 year post my time in Columbia. But when I was in Columbia, my main focus was business and human rights and also technology and venture capital. So that was the first time I was meeting with, for our technology and venture capital track, we had like top VCs, all the VCs that people would admire and all of that. I didn't even know who they were at the time. So they would come to class, they would come in as adjuncts and guest lecturers and things like that. And that was my first exposure to like, okay, when you're building a tech company, these are the kind of legal considerations that you have to think about. And for the first time, I was like, okay, there's actually, because I knew that there was space for you to be a lawyer in the tech space. But I just, I couldn't see how. So that, so Columbia kind of gave me that structure. And also while I was in Columbia, we had like this, we had this group where we provided pro bono legal services to startups within the Manhattan ecosystem. So just like local legal advisory. We could not provide the advisory at the time because I wasn't qualified as a lawyer in the US then. But we would just work with lawyers who were providing it. And that was, I just love that. And then post my fellowship with Columbia, I ended up having a couple of job offers, right? And I took one of them, and they told me, they deceived me that I would do work in Africa. So basically, I really wanted to do Africa-focused work. I was doing some of it, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with entrepreneurs, and they had told me that I would do that, but that was not what was going to happen. So I decided, I think it was in 2018, and I said, okay, I'm gonna try and start my own thing. And I was afraid at the time. I was really scared. And then Linda said to me, she's like, hey, what's the worst case scenario, right? Like if this doesn't work out,
You can just fall back to
so you just go and just dust your resume and get a job. And that was it. So from Columbia and I just started Vazi Legal just like that. People ask me for the inspiration behind the name. I wish I had a story behind it. There's no story. I was just looking for something that, I was just like, says African somewhat, and it's still easy to pronounce. There's no story about it, but
found this and put it together.
And I just put it there. So Vazi Legal started, and luckily for us, it kind of coincided with the time when a lot of African startups were raising money. So we had clients knocking on our door even before we were fully set up, right? I mean, it took maybe like a month to get our first client, but once we got that first one, it was just like, just like that. And the speed at which we've grown has just been surprising to me, I think. I didn't expect that that was going to happen. I also think that is also because right now, as it's where, there are not many tech-focused law firms in Nigeria or even on the continent. So if you're speaking to anybody and you're like, you want a tech lawyer, there are maybe like 3 or 4, 5 names that will come up. So I think that's what's happened. But so far, so good. It's been really interesting.
And I know that you're still doing Scale My Hustle. So at what point did Scale My Hustle start?
Scale My Hustle started at the time I started Vazi Legal. So what had happened with Scale My Hustle was I was trying to build a business. And I just didn't find resources to, like I was like, okay, I want to build a business. I'm looking for resources to help me think through this, you know, and all of that to build a very, you know, sustainable business. And I just couldn't find. So I was talking to a friend of mine. I was in Russia actually, Tosin of Money Africa. So we're in Russia for the World Cup. Was that was 2018, right? The World Cup, yeah,
I think
2018. So I remember very clearly we're in Moscow on a bus, one of those hop on off on buses. And then I was telling Tosin about this whole thing. I was like, how do you figure this thing out? And she was like, why don't you just start putting together something, you know, and then that would just help other people who are struggling with the same problem you have, you know, to figure out structure in their business and everything like that. And, you know, a lot of people need structure in their business for them to be able to raise capital anyway. So why don't you just do it? So we started ScaleMyHustle as that sort of like platform where it was just like, oh, we'll just provide resources for entrepreneurs. It kind of grew into a community. So it grew into a paid community of like people who were starting various businesses. Then we used to have, I think you even came on one or two of them. We used to have like sessions where, you know, experts would come and talk about different things from like growth marketing to, you know, to like SEO to, you know, raising capital and things like that. So that's kind of like how ScaleMyHustle evolved.
Is there a sort of collaboration or relationship or a place where Vazi Legal and ScaleMyHustle kind of intersect?
In a way, not so much. And the reason for that is because law firms, you know, are very regulated. So, for instance, Vazi Legal cannot do, at least in Nigeria. So we're registered in Nigeria and the US. And in Nigeria, for instance, Nigerians part of the business cannot do advertisements or anything like that. And then because of the laws of professional conduct. And one of the things, when you think about it, so I even consciously try to separate ScaleMyHustle from Vazi Legal because I also don't want any situation where it looks like ScaleMyHustle is doing something and then it kind of appears that it's Vazi Legal and then we get into trouble for that. But I think that separation has been very good. So even in people's minds, they see them as two separate things, and which was very important for me. But we do have situations where, for instance, people who are like members of the paid community and ScaleMyHustle are like, oh, I need a lawyer, right? Like, they come to us, and usually, you know, we just do it at Vazi Legal, but that's on the back end. But on the front end, not really.
Okay, so let's step away from your career for a bit. We'll come back to like talk more about the career, but let's talk about your personal brand, right? Because that's also a large part of like who you are, not just that you're a tech lawyer. At what point did you start deliberately building your personal brand? Or you can also answer from a point where you realize, oh my God, now I have a personal brand. I have 100K followers, or I have this amount of followers on Twitter. Like, how did that go? Was it deliberate? Like, oh, maybe because you wanted to build a business and you wanted to get known in the African ecosystem, like, okay, I need to actually put myself out there. Or did it just happen along the way and you kept building on it?
Yeah, so it's the latter, right? It just happened along the way, and I haven't even started building, right? Like, honestly, my personal brand is just scattered. But I noticed this. I think I even reached out to a PR expert recently because I noticed that I needed to have a more cohesive story around my personal brand. And for the longest time, I just didn't want to accept the fact that there's a brand that is Moe Odele and that is you, right? Like, I would go to different countries and then somebody just walk up to me. I don't think in the last 2 years, I don't think there's any country I've gone to that not one person would walk up to me and say, sorry, are you Moe? It actually even just happened right now today, right? Like, so, you know, it's always like, well, it took me I was in denial for a very long time. But when I realized and I didn't really care, because sometimes I'll just tweet something, they're like, feminist said, you know, your husband should pay you 75,000. I mean, nonsense. So sometimes you just have like, I'll just tweet something random and then a newspaper, Punch, like we'll just carry, I'm telling you, I'm calling them out. I mean, like, this is the national newspaper. Why are you carrying random tweets from me? So, but then I realized, I'm like, maybe it's actually just not random tweets, right? Like, so maybe you now have to consciously pay, but I still didn't pay attention to it. But one thing happened recently. I was talking to a client, a prospective client, and the client told me that this client is not Nigerian, doesn't really know anything about Nigeria or anything like that, and told me that, Mo, by the way, we're Googling you, and we saw that, you know, you seem to be an activist. That we don't want a lawyer that is getting into trouble. I said, I'm not an activist or anything. So that's the first time. I was like, yes, I'm an activist, of course, because I believe in, you know, access to justice and equality and all of that kind of nice stuff. But I mean, you won't find me fighting anybody, you know what I mean? But then I did a Google search for myself, and then I saw that, you know, the first thing that comes out is not really my professional life, which you should be, but it's really about like the role I played in, you know, in some peaceful, in a peaceful process that happened in Nigeria in 2020. And I told myself, I said, okay, fine, this is not a bad thing. I'm not ashamed of the work that I did. I'm, in fact, probably one of the proudest things of my life, really. I'm very proud of, you know, the role. But I'm like, going forward, I don't want this to define me. I don't want people to see me and put, you know, XXX protester. I said, no, that's not it. So that's for the first time, I decided, and I said, okay, I'm going to talk to a PR person and see what I can do to make sure that, because now what is happening is, it's a case of, if you don't tell your story, other people will tell it for you. They'll tell it for you. So I'm just at that point where I'm just trying to figure out, you know, what I need to do, and things like that. So
how do you want to be known now?
You know, to be honest, I don't even want to be known.
I mean, it's too late.
I just want to be quiet.
It's too late. So
do you know,
you're dead now.
No, one time I actually thought about it. I was like, what if I change my name? I like legal name change because I was tired. But really and truly, I just want to be known as, you know, the best tech lawyer that exists. That's it. It's a very simple thing. So it's like for the period of my lifetime when I'm alive, if you know, that's it. That's all I want. So it's very narrow, you know, and it's just like, okay, I'm a tech lawyer and this is what it does. That's what I want to be known for now. When I retire, which is going to be in a few years. When I retire, I'm in my mid-30s already now, so I have to start thinking about retirement. And when I retire, I just want to disappear. And when I say disappear, I just want to go somewhere quiet at some lakeside, just like, you know, writing books and just watching the water, and then just be satisfied in my life that, okay, you know what, I've created an impact that, you know, other people are just going to take away and continue with, and that's it. So the way I see my journey is, I see myself as an enabler, in the sense that I don't even really want, I don't really want any glory or anything for myself. I really see myself as setting the pathway for other people. And that's kind of like that's how you want to be remembered. Yes, that's my assignments, you know, that's the assignment I've given myself. So literally, my law firm, for instance, we're 95% women, and it's deliberate, because I want people to be able to see, like, and my lawyers are very close to me, right? Like, so when I'm doing stuff, I take them along. I'm very open and transparent about challenges, about, you know, things. So they just know that, okay, this is possible and this person is doing it. It's also another reason why I share on social media. I'm a very private person. And when I share things, it's not from a place of, like, you know, I don't really care what other people think, but it's just a place of just, you know, showing other people like me that this is possible, you can do this. And again, I think tying it back to how I grew up, right? Like me saying, I just grew up myself, just teaching myself everything, up until building my law firm, right? It's me just teaching myself. I met somebody just earlier today, and she was telling me that, I started a law firm, honestly, and a lot of what you've shared along the way helped me. And for me, impact is not even about scale. I don't want to impact 1 million people, but it's just about the sort of value, people, right? So even if it's 10 people, and then that is very, you know, valuable to their life, what's going to happen is they're going to pay it forward. And I think that's how we just create a better world, right? So me, I don't need all the glory. It doesn't have to be, oh, Mo did this or invented this. I'm just like, let me just create a pathway, you know, for people who are similar to me or look like me, you know, or even people who are dissimilar. Just create a pathway
for other people.
Yeah, for other people.
And why is it tech law? Why does being a tech lawyer matter in helping you achieve this assignment?
I think it's just a matter. I think it's just because I do it in other areas of my life as well. So not just, you know, in my professional life, but I think it's just because this is where I find myself. So it's a matter. It's a question of do what you can with what you are, where you are. Right? Or sorry, do what you can, what you have, where you are. So it's just a question of this is the space I find myself, right? If I was, you know, if I decided today and I said, okay, you know what, I want to be a content creator, it's kind of going to be a full-time content creator. Exactly. But that's the thing, I'm not making any money. Come and teach me now. I'm just a broke content creator. That's the problem. But seriously, Instagram has started paying me like $100 per reel, per Instagram reels. You see? I've been doing Instagram reels. People on Instagram are like, you're doing reels. They don't know that
they are doing it because
I've been giving them transitions. They're like, but it's because Mark has been paying me small. Anyway, so if I decide to be a full-time content creator, for instance, I still think that was going to be the core of the message that I'll be passing across, right? So it's kind of like, yeah, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing is just going to be the same thing. And that's what makes me happy. That's what makes me fulfilled. Just seeing that, okay, because of something you said or because of something you did, somebody else finds it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I think as an immigrant as well, when I moved to the US, that was also very important because moving to the US, I didn't know anything about what I was supposed to do. I didn't know anything about the credit system. I didn't know anything about rent. I didn't know anything about, it was just a lot of stuff to figure out. I didn't know anything about the institutional racism. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how to navigate getting a job. And it was all those people who left snippets of how they've been able to overcome these challenges that really helped me put my life together. And I think a pivotal moment in my life was really moving to the US. I'm not telling everybody to Jackma, but but I do think it was a pivotal moment in my life. And I think it was just, at the age where I was, having found what I wanted to do career-wise. So it just really made sense for me. And then just being in America, just being by myself and just trying to figure things out. It just, yeah. So, but me seeing other people just share, and they just made it a lot easier for me, right? So, and I just told myself, I said, okay, you know what? And it's very easy. So once you've been a beneficiary of like that sort of kindness from other people, it's very easy to pay it forward without wanting anything else. Because sometimes when people share, it's like, oh yeah, this person probably wants something in return. I don't really care. Even if I share something I heavily want retweet, I'm just saying that one retweet, that one, like the person has found this useful and that's enough for me. I don't care about it. Yeah. So yeah, in a way, to go back to your question, I haven't consciously built that personal brand. I'd left it for a very long time, but now I think I'm at a point where I need to build it because I want to tell my own story myself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that very long way you answered the question with a lot of depth because you just, brought a lot of different things. So let's go back to your career for a minute. When you were talking about just the challenges that you face being a new immigrant and then deciding, okay, I'm still new in the country. Like, I don't think you've spent like more than 5 years before you started doing Vazi Legal and then now building a business. And I know, so it's a tech law firm. It's 90%, 95% more women. But what else about how you build Vazi Legal is different from how maybe other people build their own law firms? And what were like the very early challenges that you had in just like getting it off the ground?
Okay, so I think the main challenge that I had was really around capacity, right? And when I say capacity, it's like, okay, where am I going to find other tech lawyers that I can afford? I'm not saying they're not, that I can afford to pay. So that was the problem. And I've always been this kind of person. I'm like, okay, find a solution to it. So maybe that's where there was an intersection between ScaleMyHustle and VaziLegal because I launched a course on ScaleMyHustle that was talking about becoming a tech lawyer. And I wasn't the only instructor on the course. So I brought in other people that are more experienced than I am. I brought in VCs as well to teach that course. And it was just a matter of, okay, if you're a lawyer who's interested in becoming a tech lawyer, take this course. It was a ScaleMyHustle course. But really, for me, I did it for two things because I wanted to find out where people were in terms of like how they were thinking about providing legal services to tech companies and what the issues, like how, let me even meet other lawyers who are interested in this space. So I think my first set of lawyers I actually interviewed for VaziLegal, I interviewed from that class.
Right.
So from people who had made contributions in class and I'm like, okay, this person is smart, they really know what they're doing. But I also knew that there's a lot of training that needed to happen. So one of the core things that has really been an ethos of VaziLegal is that we always tell people that, hey, you are going to unlearn everything that you know about like what a law firm should be like because we're not like that, right? Like, so that's not, so we're going to relearn things and we're very open with like culture. So I think, I take a different approach to culture. Like a lot of companies will tell you and say, this is our culture and this is what it's supposed to be. But I think culture is dynamic and I think people make up culture. And I think for you to be able to have, so I believe in a culture where, people can feel free to express themselves. And if you have a rigid culture, you're not going to see that. You want to know your people, right? So of course, we have the framework and say this is the kind of place we want people to work. but we're also very flexible in like, okay, let's let people contribute. So our culture document is a live document, for instance, which is like, okay, people are like, and you should also be able to give people the opportunity to audit culture, right? Like, so if you just have a culture that is set in stone, it's not audited, nothing, it doesn't move. But that's not how it is. Because when you even think about culture just in the real sense of the word, it's very dynamic. So that's kind of like how we've structured that. Then the main challenge, I think I just talked about the main challenge being capacity. We didn't really have a problem with clients. In fact, the challenge we ended up having was on the flip side, where it was like we just didn't have enough capacity to
meet the demand.
Yeah, to meet the demand of the clients that we had. And a core of our business has been 80% referrals, or maybe more than that. Most people that we do business with end up introducing us. We're crunching the data, and we found out that each of our clients has introduced us to an average of 4 other people. And I just thought that was fantastic, because I was like,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so I was looking at it, I was like, that's fantastic. And we have a conversion hit rate, because we have like a hello, reach out to us on our website. This is just random, not referrals. And then we crunched the number and found out that 50%, we have a 50% conversion rate from people who have reached out to us randomly on our website to actually conversion to clients. So I'm like, okay, that's not bad. So we're at the point where, in the next couple of months, I'm even looking at mergers, because I've now gotten to a point where it's like, okay, we need to acquire somebody, or somebody needs to acquire, or something, an acquisition has to happen somewhere. Because now the briefs that we're kind of like hustling, not hustling, but the briefs that we're kind of getting are like, we get a lot of early stage companies, which is great, but it's mostly companies that are now past Series A. And which is good, because it means that we're growing with the industry, right? But also those same briefs, we have like bigger law firms fighting for those briefs as well. So we're at this make and break moment where it's like, is that how you keep playing small, or if you want to go big, then you have to get really big. I mean, I'm not afraid of getting really big too.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm really excited about like what that and I'm also not like I said, I don't need to hoard any glory. It doesn't have to be anything. So I'm very open to, like, I've been looking at other female or women run tech law firms as well, even if they're not strictly tech, but if they have like a practice area that will be useful to us. So I'm just having those conversations and seeing how it's going. And so
sounds
far,
really exciting.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
What are you most proud of as the founder of Vazi Legal?
I think my people, honestly, because for every single person that works with the firm, I have I never do the first set of interview, but I interview them, and we have this game night thing that we do every Thursday, and there's just a lot of dancing and everything. And I just look at them, I'm like, how did all these amazing people come together? I really like them as it, and I know people say, oh, don't say your work people are your family, but like, But
red flag.
I don't even see them as family. I see them as friends, which for me, it's very critical. Like sometimes I'm really down and I'm like, I don't want to have a meeting today and everything. But we get on the phone and then somebody will say something that will make me laugh in 5 seconds. I'm like, I didn't want to laugh today. I wanted to be angry. What's the problem? So, I really like them. And especially for people who studied law, because majority of the people who work at Vazi Legal studied law in Nigeria. So for our US office, we mostly work with like independent lawyers, because that's the easiest way to, to be able to pay them. So you just pay them per job instead of keeping them in-house. But for majority of the people who work full-time in Vazi Legal studied law in Nigeria, and the system itself is very rigid, very controlling, to the extent that imagine wearing white on black every single day of your life for 6 years, right? And they tell you that you can't change that. So you wake up every morning, you wear a white shirt, you wear a black skirt, and they tell you what to do to your hair, what kind of textures you should wear. So these are people who have been under, this sort of controlled environment for so long, but somehow, are able to still be flexible and be free. And, people the lawyers in Vazi Legal have colored hair, which is not something that you see with law firms in Nigeria, right? Like, but again, the principal partner has 3 persons on her face. So, so what are we saying? And I think that's another thing. Like, you know, people see me and they're like, oh, Mo can do that. I'll do it too, right? Like, and I just like the fact that they come to work and they bring their whole selves to work. But yeah, I know I've gone in lots about this, but that's because that's how much I like my people. Yeah.
Yeah. that makes a lot of sense. Is there if there's, say, one or two experience that you say, these experiences shaped who I am today, what would they be?
Okay, I think the first one would be my relationship with my dad. My dad had a very weird attitude towards money. He never believed that you needed to accumulate it, which was probably good or bad, but he was just like, oh, money is a tool that should be utilized for something. So he never saw the need to. Of course, he had savings, I think. I mean, he had 3 wives, so, you know, we know where his savings were going to. Anyway, so he's like, he never saw the need to just accumulate money and just keep it that way. So it was just like, okay, what is this? What do I need this particular sum of money for? What am I going to use it for? How does it work for me? What do I want to achieve with it? And that's kind of like a core, because of course our relationship with money is really a core of our life, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, and that's a core part of my life in terms of like how I see money. I'm not worried about money, and it's not because I have a lot of it, you know, it's just because I see it as a tool. So I'm like, okay, if I need to do something and this is what it's going to cost, then how do I get the money to do that thing, right? And if I can't, like, you know, and if it's something that, if I don't end up doing it, then I feel like it's just because I don't want to do it bad enough, right? Like, so once I want to do something, I figure out a way to do it. And I think that's really the core. And the philosophy works for me because it makes me believe that nothing is unattainable. So if you tell me that something is X price and I really want that thing, I would get that X price, right? Regardless of where I am. So I think that's number one. The second one is relationship with someone I met in the US. Her name is Heather Eisenlord. She was my first boss in the US. And as soon as I met her and I started working with her, so this was like, what, 6-7 years ago, I told myself that this was the kind of boss I just wanted to be. So every time, you know, I have a challenge at work or something, I'm like, what would Heather do? We're still close friends. We actually were just in Morocco together recently because another friend of ours, we're getting married. But it's like almost 20 years between Heather and I, so she's not even my mate. She's not my mate like that. But I started working with her, and she was the first person that showed me that it was it's easy, or it's possible, not easy. It's possible for you to, you know, respect people who are your subordinates, right? And be friends with them, but still being able to make sure that there are boundaries, right? And the reason why people are nasty bosses or whatever is because that's easier than setting boundaries. She was the first person who taught me that it was possible, you know, for you to actually be friends with people who are your subordinates, right? People who you supervise, but at the same time being able to put those boundaries and respect those boundaries. And I found out that a lot of people, you know, find it like it's easy to just be oh, you know what, I don't want to talk to you outside work and all of that, because that's easier than actually being able to create boundaries, right? And I'm not saying that everybody needs to be like that, but I just enjoy the style of working a lot because it made me not only, you know, bring my best self to work. I did some of the best work of my career. Vazi Legal, I know they're looking at me. Like, it's where you stop to be like. So I like the work at Vazi Legal also, but I did some of the best work of my career working with her because I was just happy, right? Coming to work, and I was like, and maybe it was just because of the kind of experiences I'd had, like comparatively. But I also worked with some other bosses in America, and it wasn't like that. But for her, it was amazing. And like I said, we're still friends. You know, she texted me like 2 months ago, and she was like, hey, I'm in Morocco for a wedding, you want to come through? And I was like, wherever you are in the world, I'm coming. You know, so we're still cool, and we spent like a week together and all of that. So I think those two things, so very instrumental.
So your relationship with your dad and his relationship with money, and then held up because of how she inspired you to be a better boss.
Yes, exactly.
So very two interesting cases. Okay, now just talking about Morocco trip, we've been traveling for the last how many months now?
I think 8.
Oh, so we're getting closer to the 1 year.
I know.
How many countries have you done so far?
I've done 18.
How many left?
You know, funny enough, I don't know how many would be left. I think now I'm just like, because I didn't have a target number. I was just going with the flow. So I'm not really sure how many.
18 different countries.
Yeah, and but it's kind of like been interesting because for some countries I have spent 1 day or 2 days, and then for other countries I've spent like you know, a month. Like Lebanon, for instance, I was supposed to spend a week in Lebanon, and I ended up spending 1 month. So yeah.
Was there a reason why?
Because Lebanon is amazing. Like, I mean, the landscape is
So it's
just
really about
gorgeous.
the country, and you get it like, you know, I'm staying for a couple more days.
I mean, and I love the people. I love the food. The culture is very similar to Nigeria. I don't know how come, because we're so far apart. Maybe it's also because there's been a lot of like, you know, intertrading, and we have a huge Lebanese population here in Nigeria.
Very true.
In fact, I didn't even know that there's a direct flight from Nigeria to Lebanon, and it's from Lagos to Lebanon, and it's 5 hours or 5.5 hours. So yeah, but like you walk into a restaurant, you know, in Lebanon, and they ask you, like, where are you from? You're like, Nigeria. They're like, I used to work in Ikoyi. You know, I used to work at SIP. Literally, because a lot of managers for restaurants and bars in Lagos are Lebanese, and they come, so they all know each other. So they're just like, oh, my guy, do you know Kunle? We used to live together at 1G4. I'm like, okay, 1G4. So I mean, yeah. So Lebanon, I really liked, but the landscape is very beautiful. Like the beaches are untouched, you know. For some funny reason, I feel like people that live by the ocean, they don't like to swim in the ocean. So you don't even see them swimming in the ocean, which is good because it means that they've really protected, you know, the ocean. It looks really, really blue. Like sometimes when I take walks in the morning and I'm just walking, I'm just like, how is this sort of beauty even possible? And I think it was also the part of Lebanon so I traveled around Lebanon, but I stayed a lot in the northern part of Lebanon. And I don't know, it was incredible. Even from the pictures I was posting from Lebanon, people were like, is this where is this? You know, so, and I'd not even, you know, even had time to sort out through the pictures I have, right? Like that's how incredible it is. And then Lebanon is also, has a very rich history, like internal history. And I also like the resilience of the people as well.
Is that the favorite country you've been to so far?
Obviously, I've been talking about it for 5 minutes. I just wanted to be sure. So yeah, and then it just has a very deep personal history. And then the people are constantly fighting, and you know, they're very resilient. And maybe again, it reminds me of Nigeria, right? Like so just that, and they're happy people, right? If you want to go out every day in Lebanon, you go out and there's always something happening, right? Like, you know, so I did, and the food was really good as well. Yeah, it's my favorite.
So if there's one experience that would stay with you, it would be the trip to Lebanon.
I think so.
Is there any core lesson that you've learned? Just maybe something happened, or just, you know, by virtue of just traveling, you've just learned this one lesson or two lessons in the last 8 months that will stay with you, that you like, because I did this stint of traveling, I know that this thing I picked up would be one pivotal lesson I will always remember.
Yeah, so it goes like this. There are no coincidences in life, only fate.
Only fate.
Yes. I'm not religious or anything, but every time I meet someone and I have a conversation with them, I know that it's not a coincidence, right? I take my time to be present in that moment. I don't touch my phone. And it seems like a small thing, but I wouldn't, if I'm having a conversation with someone, you know, my phone is off. I'm just being present in that moment because I'm like, you know what, there's a reason I'm speaking to you today, and I want to be here. This is where I'm supposed to be. I don't want to be in multiple places. And then traveling has just really taught me to just be able to be in the present. So whenever I speak to people, or whenever I meet people, I just want to be present in that moment, because I think that we live in a world of constant distraction, right? Like where it's like, you know, your phone is ringing and then there's social media and there's all of that. But I think just being able to just be present in the moment is very important, because again, because each time, you know, you are on many platforms at the same time, right? Like all those distractions also just bring in some sort of worry. And let me tell you, when this happened to me was when I was in, I think I was in Albania or something. And I just decided for myself, just randomly, and I said, I'm going to turn off my phone for 24 hours. I don't care if the world is burning, if anything, is no problem. I'll see the fire from my window, but let me just turn off my phone. And I turned off my phone, and that was it. Then when I tried to turn on my phone, the phone did not come on.
It was like, you left me, I'll leave you.
Exactly, so the phone didn't come on. So basically, I was without a phone, and that was the longest in my life that I've never been with I was without a phone for one week in Albania, because obviously I was.
Oh, the phone didn't come on at all.
The phone
just even charging.
Yeah, the phone just spoiled. It didn't come on. So I'd gone swimming the other day, and then there was water in the phone. I needed to, you know, dry it out. But that 1 week, the first 24 hours, That's the next 24 hours after, because the first 24 hours was deliberate. Then, the following 24 hours was really hard because I was worried. I was like, who's trying to call me? Who's trying to, So basically I sent, I went to somewhere, to a hotel, and then I, used my laptop. I sent my mom an email just to tell her that I'm okay, and that was it. And then, and then by the next 24 hours, I just forgot about it. And then I would go to a bar and I would sit down and I would just I was just paying more attention to, the color of that chair.
Drinking and typing.
Yeah, exactly, the color of that chair. Oh, this person's smile, and everybody was on their phone anyway, but I was just, paying a lot more attention to that. And I just liked it. I liked just being able to just walk on the streets of Tirana and just looking around and just looking at the building and just like, getting lost really, because I didn't even have Google Maps, no phone. So, so I kind of really enjoy that experience. So I even still do it from time to time where, once every 3 months or so, I just turn off my phone for like a week.
Be present.
Yeah, I actually just even came out from one recently, where I just turn off my phone for a week and that's it, So for me, it's just like, just being present in the moments, and that's it.
And there are no coincidence, just fate.
Yeah, just fate, yeah.
What's the most difficult thing about being Moe?
Because, she's so beautiful. That's I'm joking. How do you maintain this beauty? I think...
Word. Give us tips.
I think the most difficult thing about me is I'm very passionate. I find it very difficult to let go, and this happens...
So not the difficult thing about you,
the
difficult thing about being you.
About being me. How do you answer that kind of question? I don't think I'm a very easy-go-lucky person. I don't think honestly. I mean, okay, maybe a lot of people misunderstand me, something like that. And it's because, they see me from afar and they just assume, they make assumptions. And I think the most difficult thing about being me is carrying the weight of those assumptions, right? I used to carry it a lot, and I'm like, okay, this person thinks this thing about me, and then I'm worried about it. But like the moment I let go of that, there's just this peace. So now I'm just like, hey, your assumptions are your assumptions.
Think what you want to think.
Yeah. So the people that I care about know me, and they're fine. So whatever it is, yeah. So that used to be a difficult part, but for now, I think that's
Life is good.
Like mostly good. I think on the baseline, I'm a happy person. Just on the baseline, like it's not. Yeah.
That's amazing. And my final question. If there's one thing you want someone who watches this interview to this point to take out of your story or just watching this, what would that thing be?
It would be that life is not always linear, and that you don't have to you don't have to see what 5 years is going to look like today, because honestly, when 5 years ago, I didn't think that my life would be where my life is now, right? So life is not linear, and progress is not linear as well. There will be ups and downs, and then, you find your way somehow. But I think that just taking that away and just knowing that in your lowest, right, it's time for you to just be self-reflective and try to find direction again, and you'll find it.
That's amazing. Progress as well is not linear. I haven't heard that before, so that's definitely something that's sticking for me. Is there anything you wanted me to ask you that I didn't, or something that wanted to share that you're like,
no,
I didn't get it?
I think we're good.
Amazing. Okay, so we're ending with life is not linear, and career isn't, and progress definitely isn't as well. There'll be ups and downs, and but you get to self-reflect and figure it out.
I'll figure it out. Just keep focused.
Keep focused and be present and travel. Goals. 18 countries in 8 months. Write on your vision board. Amazing. Thank you, Mo, for having this conversation with me. It's been a pleasure to get to know you a bit more.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. And thank you guys for watching this video to the end. Make sure you like, you subscribe, you comment. Just do all of it. Help my life. I'll see you in the next video, guys.
Yeah,
Peace.
we did it.